Oh yes, that is me jumping right into the video. We're going to continue on with the second part of doing your own wide body kit. We're reusing some more flares. Last time we got them hooked up, I'll show you guys, get you caught up, and then we're going to move right forward. This is what we did last time. We got the flares cleaned up, we filled in the holes, got them re-drilled, Cleco pinned it all on, and now we have this foam that was sitting here. It's now hardened, ready to be trimmed up to the shape we want. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trimming, whoa, holy cow, I'm growing up. Anyway, don't judge. We're going to be trimming these down, getting fiberglass on top of it, reinforcing it, pretty much just turning the rest of these gaps into fiberglass to match the rest of the flare, sitting down, priming it, pinning it, putting it on the car officially, getting it all the mounts in. We're not going to cut it because that's for another day, but the whole entire flare will be done, so you'll have the knowledge to make your own wide body flare. Yes, shut up, Philip. Alright, it's time for us to get into the video. Jump right in. We're going to start trimming this down. Remember, as we trim it down, we're going to want to cut this one so it has a little bend in it to match the shape, and this one we're going to do a little whoop-de-whoop. You'll see as I'm going. I'll explain it as I go, as per usual. Let's get right into it.
I'm using one of those wood saw thing, jiggy, whatever it is, blades that cut stuff well, and it works perfect because I can get a nice flat angle for those top parts and then come in with sandpaper and then sand it down nice and flushed the way I want it, and then get the bottom, use a little rattle can to get that shape that I want though. See you there in a second. Oh, hey, there it is.
Alright, so we kind of trimmed up this one side right here. As you can kind of see, what we did was we just used a little wood saw blade to cut down the sides there, and then we came back and trimmed them all down, or sanded them all down, so it's pretty solid. Don't worry too much about those air gaps that you see. I'm not worried about those. Those will be filled over anyway. The one thing that I am worried about is I forgot that I put a metal plate right there in the middle of the screen to cover up where the old gas cap was. So what I'm thinking I'm going to have to do is rip that out and then fill more more of the great stuff and let it sit, and then trim that all down again because it's giving me a weird shape. And I'm also going to need to carve out right there in the corner another place for a Cleco pin to go. So that's kind of the plan with that. A little bit of a bummer that we have to do that, but that's just another step. We're going to make sure to do this right. So we're going to skip ahead since you guys already know how to do the great stuff, fill it in. So next thing you'll see is it will be all shaped to how it's supposed to be. Alright, we got it fixed. All we did is use some of that scrap stuff, fill it in, hot glue it in, and then trim it back down to size. So anyway, what we're going to do next is we're going to start laying the fiberglass over top. We're just get the fiberglass cloth over top here, down to the bottom there, get it all nice and filled in. Then when it comes and hardens, we'll get to the back side, reinforce it, go back to the front side, fill it in, make it look all nice and good. That's roughly what the plan is. Once again, time lapse, boy. Let's get rolling. I do need to quickly apologize for saying boy the way that I did. Time lapse, boy! That is very disrespectful and I sounded stupid. So, yeah, I apologize.
Writers, write what they know. Liars, write what they wanna show. Singers, sing what they told. But I know you got something else to say. Like secret language, speaking in tongues. Snake like tongue-tied, you on the run. Tribal dancing, I don't know what you are, you are, you are, you are. Summer floating over my heart. We're both dancing over the dark.
It's been about 3 hours now since we let the fiberglass sit on there, so it is all cured and ready to be taken off and trimmed. First thing I'm going to do is cut out this extra fiberglass. I went a bit overboard, mostly just because I'd rather trim stuff back than have to keep adding later and later. So we did about 5 layers of this thinner stuff over the middle. The reason being is they're just so thin because this is fiberglass mesh, I believe it is. I'm blanking on the name. Yikes, I even looked this up and ordered it. Anyway, this is a lot thinner than that checkered stuff that you see, like the carbon fiber type look buffer fiberglass. Anyway, this is a lot thinner, so we're doing more layers to get more structure behind it. It is a lot easier to work with though, more contourable. There we go, sounding like a sportscaster. But I wanted to make sure that I can get this bend as it ridges over, because this is something that we need. Specifically on this side, not really on the other side. For the gas cap we will, but we don't need to make a whole new corner, because with this flare, it is actually being cut all the way here and then stops right there. So we needed to recreate this whole entire side. So this is at the point where we're going to pull it off. It is very ridgy and not perfectly smooth, but we're going to sand this down with about 80 grit, probably maybe even less, kind of chop it all up, get it all nice and rough, so that way we can do fiberglass filler over top to get the rough shape and some more strength. A little fiberglass filler on the back just as backing, more to make sure that it's not falling off in the back, because right now it's only connected on the front. So fiberglass filler on the back and the front, and then trim it all up. Do some Bondo on the front, smooth it all out. So that's the plan of attack. Right now we're gonna go ahead and pull this filler off, trim off the excess little fiberglass, the stuff that's not molded, and then go ahead and hit it with some fiberglass filler.
You are, you are, you are, you are. You got letters sprinkled all over your body. If I join up the dots, it makes me feel naughty. I feel like I shouldn't touch. You gotta know touch and sign. I feel like I shouldn't run. You're blocking the exit with your life.
Alright, we got it trimmed on the sides here, and I wanted to take a quick pause to kind of show you guys a little something, because it'd be a little hard just to try to explain it over the narration. So first things first, you saw me trimming this side after I already cut it. The reason being was I needed to trim into the fiberglass a little bit, just in order to get that extra little stuff that didn't get any resin on it, so that way I wasn't sealing in any non-cured resin, which would then cause an area that could eventually peel off, which is what we don't want. So there's a bit of line, but we're going to sand this down, put fiberglass filler over top. Remember to cut this one curved a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell just because this dives in, so this is about 2 inches deeper towards the table than this spot. A little hard to tell, sorry, but it curves in. That's where you saw me turning it. The bottom area cutting it flush, and this top area curving it out as well. Just a reminder, you saw me cutting it quick without really checking for like lines or measurements or anything. Reason being is like overcut, in the sense that I didn't cut enough off, so the opposite of overcut. But I did that so I can get it all trimmed up and make it cleaner and easier to work with the fiberglass. So we're gonna go ahead and lay fiberglass resin over top, but the part I wanted to show you more was on the back that is all gunked up. So lesson learned is I need to cover this with blue tape before, at least most of the areas. I had a little trouble peeling it off, so it didn't want to come off there because the great stuff stuck to the vinyl so well. So that's a lesson now I know for the front and for you guys as well. But we're going to come through with fiberglass resin, fill around all these cracks here, the top one here, and this bottom one is fine because it's still sealed in with that. So as long as we get these, we'll be good. It's already on there really solid. There's no indication at all that it's going to come off. So that's a plus there. So anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that really quickly before we move on to the fiberglass resin. So we're going to go ahead, and it's already pretty gritty and rough, which is great. So we don't actually need to sand it down. I thought it'd be a lot smoother. It's not, probably due to the fact that we're using the fiberglass matte and not the mesh, or whichever one it is. Still haven't looked it up since I last said it. So anyway, that's the plan. Fiberglass resin, matte, no, fiberglass filler on coming next. All right, let's get to it.
Addicted to light, center, always in the limelight. Show ya a real good time. Oh, I know you got something else for me. A secret language, speaking in tongues. Snake like tongue tight, you on the run.
The next step after it's dry is to go ahead and sand it down. Just remember to sand down more than you think you need, because you have to do the filler over top, and the fiberglass filler right here does not go well with paint. So make sure to sand down a lot more than you need, and just have at it.
If I join up the dots, it makes me feel naughty. I feel like I shouldn't touch. You gotta know touch and sign. I feel like I shouldn't run. You're blocking the exit with your life.
The next thing we did on was the body filler, and as you can see here, I go at it and way overdo it. And you want to do this because since you're making a new part, essentially, you want to way overdo it so that way you can stand it back, get the exact shape you want. The body filler will be the last little way to kind of make sure that you get the correct shape. So sand it down, and then I'll catch you guys up with where we are next.
Alright, so it's been a little bit and I've done quite a bit of work since I last caught you guys up, so I wanted to pause a second with the narration and show you guys exactly what's going on because it's a little much just to explain. So what happened is we laid the fiberglass filler over top, sanded it down, laid the body filler over top. We did a lot because we had a lot to cover and a lot just got sanded off. We have that sanded down, and this is only the first layer of Bondo. We're going to do a second one, possibly a third, depends on how well the second one covers. But as you can see kind of right here and right here, I don't know how well it's showing up on the screen, but there are areas where it's darker, and those are areas where the sander didn't get them all the way down. So what I mean by that is there's so much filler that if I sanded it all the way down to there, it'd kind of take away the shape that I want, and we'd be getting really close to the fiberglass mat that we laid and start eating into that, which actually happened right here. So as you can see, it ate away a bit right there, and we're gonna have to come back and fill that in again. I'm gonna do that with fiberglass filler, tape over top, fill from the back end, give it a little strength, make it a little heftier than needed. This part is still off the car, like not touching the body itself, that touches right down there, so we can go a little heavier than we need, just to give it that added strength and added protections. That way if we sand it down, we don't repeat this same mistake. So anyway, what's coming next is I'm going to go ahead, fill that gap, lay more Bondo over top, get it all smoothed out and get it to that nice perfect level. I'm not going to tape it because you guys, as you just saw, it's the same exact process that I did, where it's just fill, sand, and then repeat until we have that shape that we want. So zooming out though, hopefully you guys can see that this is really taking the shape that we want. Let me zoom out even more for you. So as we're looking at the flare, as it comes down here, this is really taking that exact shape. I'm very happy with how it's turning out right now. I just want to make sure that when you get close, it holds up to that standard as well. So as I said, I'm just going to go ahead and fill and get everything all perfectly smooth and sanded down to exactly how we want, and then we can get right to the primer and painting part, which is what I'm sure you guys are hoping to get to next. So anyway, I'll get that taken care of. You guys are back to caught up to how we should be. So I went and got those issues mostly fixed and then primed it with a couple layers, and you'll see here in just a second that it exposed some areas that weren't quite perfect. So we'll see that, and this is going to be near the end of the video, but I'll explain it all in just a second for you. So we did 2 layers of primer, and I'm going to go ahead and finish out the video here after I explain what's going on, because it's starting to get a bit long and I really want to get a video out. I put this video off a week, if not even over that, just to make sure I get you guys something quality. But it's getting to the point where we have enough steps ahead of us that I think this will be a good stopping point. We'll be able to get a third part and finish it up. So anyway, let me show you where we're at. So again, as I said, I did the 2 coats of primer. I was going to do a third, but I realized there are some imperfections that I couldn't see straight up when this was multicolored in this area. So it looks good from right here, but when we zoom in, you'll start to see some of the issues. Now there's the biggest issue right there, is all this little pitting right here. So I have little pitting spot putty that'll fill in that, and we're gonna have to go ahead and cover this. I was kind of had a suspicion that this was there, but I wanted to prime it anyway, because when you prime it in this color specifically, it's so easy to see everything, all the little pits. So there's some here, over here needs a little more work. This middle area is good, but some of the edges need work. Pitting there, this started to crack here, and then even as we go across, there's some pitting in the middle. Whoops, and there goes that. And I don't know if you could tell, but there's hairline cracks right along here that I want to get fixed as well as the holes along the side where the rivets actually connect. Those turned out pretty well, but again, imperfections that I couldn't see. So what's going to happen is I'm going to use spot putty to fill these in. We'll get it looking good. After we'll sand it down, spot putty, and then go at it, get it painted, and then we also still have to do the rib nuts in there, and then cut the flares or cut the fenders before we get it all meshed in. So that's where we're at with that. And so that's where we're going to end it tonight. So, oh, I'm probably right in the light. Let me move. That's where we're going to end it. So I've put in a lot of work into making this happen for you guys. Again, over 2 weeks of work just on these 2 flares, because I really want to make sure that I do this right and don't just rush through it. So bear with me for a little bit, but I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I keep looking at the flare because I'm happy with how it turns out, or just turning out. So bear with me. It'll be well worth it in the end. You guys will see how to do it the right way and not just how to do it the rush way. Now, if for you it's good enough just throw on 1 layer of Bondo and just get it pretty smooth, and go right ahead. You have the tools now to do it, but I do want to show you how to do it the correct way if you want to go all the way and make it look as if it was intended to go that way from the factory. I don't know where I'm going, you know how it's meant to look. So anyway, go ahead and check out the Patreon links below as per usual. I don't know where I'm going with this. Dislike, unsubscribe, hate in the comments, guys. Bye.